start too?
Yeah, please. Thank you.
Yes, sir. 1 second. So I'll formally welcome you. Then you can start.
Okay.
So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the post-lunch session, the third day, third session, Atal-sponsored faculty development program on additive manufacturing. Today's session title is Perspectives on Building Laser-Based Powder Bed Fusion Machine. Today we have a eminent personality, Mr. N. Kuppuswamy from 3D Plasma Tech is with us. So he has completed his BTech in metallurgy stream from IIT Madras in the year of 1976, and he has completed his MBA from IIM Ahmedabad in the year of 1978. He has over 40 years of Indian and international experience, particularly in physical vapor deposition, the product development of PVD machines. And also now he is involved in developing metal additive machines for different industries and also for the universities. Sir, the session is yours. Dear participants, please make use of this session. If you have any queries, please type in the chat box, or you can ask at the end of the session by unmute yourself. Thank you. Sir, please.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Prabhakaran. And this is Kuppuswamy. Now, what the approach is to go through the slides I prepared for your benefit quickly, and then we allocate enough time for discussions back and forth. Now, the first question that's going to come up is, oh, we know all about the applications, we know how to use the machines, why bother to build our own machine? We'll keep importing. Just for your information, India is the only major country among the larger economies which is not building its own 3D printing machines. Even small countries, forget China, which is huge. Even small countries like Korea build their own machines. And if you look at Europe, even Lithuania is building a machine, very small country. We are only probably a large country with such a talented engineering population which keeps on importing and makes others rich. You either import from Germany or you import from China. Now, of course, for the past 2 years, there are efforts in Bangalore by private companies such as Wipro and Intex to make their own machines with or without the help of educational institutions. And of course, PSG is also working on one, and so is IAC. But PSG and IAC are funded by Government of India. And just to tell you how slow we are in our application, my application rather, with Professor Ramachandran in Coimbatore to build a machine was approved by DST in November 2017, formally approved in March 2018, funds received in September 2020. That's how slow we are. Therefore, depending on government or government institutions is not the way to go. Every one of you can build their own machine depending on the budget. It doesn't have to be multiple crores. As we go through it, you will understand you can build a reasonable SLS, that is a laser-based machine for doing either nylon or PEEK at a fairly low cost. Okay, between a SLS machine and one for metal, the only difference is the laser power, and the laser prices have been dropping. When I started working on this 3 years ago, 1 kilowatt used to be in the region of, from Germany, that is, showed 1 crore. Now we are talking about 1 kilowatt in the region of around 15 lakhs. Therefore, that's how big the drop is. And there is no need to go to China, Shenzhen, and buy unreliable equipment. Even the ones from Europe and US, the price have come down. Okay, now let's get into our main focus will be on 3D printing or additive manufacturing of metal, but our knowledge can be extended to any engineering plastics such as nylon and PEEK. Okay, let's. Essentially, there are two methods of depositing for metal. One is on the left, which is powder bed, which is what you're probably very familiar with. The one on the right is what in the olden days when we were in college used to be called cladding. Now, subsequently, somebody else called it laser metal deposition, and is also called a direct energy deposition. Now, this particular design was pioneered by Automac out of US, okay, and is probably more popular among the traditional metallurgical engineers. Now, powder bed deposition has got a lot of plus points and it's very fairly easy to build. The biggest negative point about powder bed deposition is the very high cost of manufacturing. It requires high quality powder. There's a lot of wasted powder. And if you're getting into the metallurgical problems of microstructure, powder bed deposition gives you very little control. Okay, let's go further. And in a powder bed machine, there are two methods of dispensing powder. One is from the hopper, which is above the bed. Other one is from the bottom, pushing up. And if you're trying to use powder bed technology for instance, a sand mold or for a polymer or ceramic, then you use a binder. The binder is is sintered by the laser beam in position, so that's how we build the sand mold. I'm personally not very familiar with this approach. I'm more familiar with the metals, maybe because of my bias towards metals. The other one is for the metal, we basically use the energy, which is a laser beam or a e-beam, electron beam. These are the companies at about 2 years ago who are offering all this. Wherever I have borrowed the Professor Karunakaran's slide, I have given him the reference because I learned a lot about 3D printing from him. He ran a seminar in PSG about 2 years ago. Subsequently, I visited him in IIT Bombay also. Electron beam is very good for a powder bed technology. The problem is the knowledge on how to control an electron beam is extremely limited in India, maybe confined to 3 or 4 institutions at the most. That's why it's not become popular. And these institutions are not meant for machine building, such as RRCAT or BRC. They have the knowledge, but not in machine building. Now, the most popular powder bed, which almost every Indian engineer knows, is EOS. Okay, then the next, what's the powder bed's major advantage for metal is you can control in a 20 micron thickness. It's possible. Of course, when you're trying to go into 20 microns, obviously a powder cannot be bigger than 20 microns. Then you're talking about powder in the 10 to 15 micron range. And you're also talking about a very, very high flow rate powder, such as a spherical powder with very little comets, which flows well. The powder beds, as it says, the build zone is typically 250 millimeter cubed. The bigger it is, more difficult it is to manufacture. Whereas in the case of laser cladding, you can have very long machines. There are multiple methods being used. Therefore, that's got a different scope. But you will never get a very fine part like the one in the picture here out of laser cladding. Because in powder bed, the part comes out almost ready to use. Now in cladding again, in powder bed, there's only one thing you can use, powder, nothing else. Of course, you can try between irregular powder and spherical powder, though everyone advises you to use spherical powder. You could use the normal irregular powder. There's a huge price difference between a spherical powder and a irregular powder. Obviously, there is a difference in performance also. Irregular powder will give you poor performance, but typically is half the price of a spherical powder. Now, when it comes to the laser cladding or deposition technology, which is also called laser metal deposition, you have a choice between a powder, wire, and a strip. In this process, the powder utilization is only 40%. Whereas in the case of if you use a wire, you are able to go up to 90% utilization, 95 even. So is it for a strip. Now, the disadvantage of wire and strip could be to do with the resolution you are able to get and layer thickness you are able to build. And in almost both cases, you will have to do machining subsequently. But wire is preferred because a typical wire costs you, for instance, for titanium, costs you about $45 to $50 a kilo, whereas powder for titanium, for instance, costs you $200 a kilo. Therefore, it's a huge difference in price. And but of course, most of the people prefer powder bed. Just give you only 1 minute. Santosh, I'm in a call. I'm in a seminar. Huh. Anything urgent? Yeah, okay, I'll come back to you. I'll come back. Sorry about that. Okay. Now, this is how the typical laser metal deposition schematic looks like. You have the laser beam, the powder comes in, and then it creates a melt pool, and you rotate the melt pool around. I'll explain this further. Therefore, you have the laser, you have the electron beam, or the arc. These are the three energy sources available. Now, I would say in terms of quality, in terms of performance, in terms of running cost, electron beam is the best, provided you know how to use an electron beam. Maybe I'm biased because I used one in my PVD machine for about 10 years. Okay. Now, electron beam is used where you have to have a controlled atmosphere. Yet, controlled atmosphere is required when the quality of the deposition has to be perfectly controlled, such as in a medical implant, like a knee implant. Now, arc is also a very good way of doing it. Nottingham, especially, is a pioneer in this area. For instance, if you use a TIG machine, you're looking at millimeters and will require a lot of allowance for machining, but it's low cost. Long, obviously, arc is a way to go. Professor Karunakaran IIT has also done quite a lot of work with arc in India. Now, let's look at, on the left, you have the powder bed screen, where you don't see the laser beam movement in this picture. On the right, you have the typical LMD, that is laser metal deposition or direct energy division. The olden days it was called laser cladding, and this is a picture which is very similar to the lens model. You have the powder and the laser coming in through the nozzle, and in this case, you are repairing a shaft. I mean, you're not making the whole shaft by 3D printing. You are basically resurfacing the shaft or a roller, which is typically done in a paper industry or other industries. You are rebuilding the portions which have been removed by abrasion in use. Okay, this slide explains to you a little bit about powder bed versus the laser metal deposition. Okay, now these are typically some of the examples done by laser metal deposition. Oh, I know there's a question that you're supposed to be talking about powder bed. Why are you talking about laser clad deposition? These are all complementary technologies. Powder bed and laser metal deposition are not competing with each other. There are applications where laser metal will work. There are applications where powder bed will work. And for India, where we have a problem with quality powder, where we are quite worried about the cost of the part, laser metal deposition is quite useful. Okay, now let's come back to powder bed. This is how the schematic of a typical powder bed machine looks like. You have the one hopper, which is where the powder is fed, and normally the powder feeding hopper will keep going up onward to keep on feeding powder. Therefore, you start with one layer of powder, and then the laser beam moves as per the G code or as per the geometry, and sinters only the profile that has to be centered in the powder. Now, for the next layer, This build platform comes down by, let's say, 50 micron, and then the powder hopper goes up, and then the blade spreads the powder around, and the excess powder gets off into one end. And then the process repeats. The scan and the laser is moved around as per the geometry, and then the sintering happens only as per the geometry, and then the unused powder is pushed out, and the whole process starts again. Now the other slide may be a little bit more explanatory. You can see the two hoppers which are critical. One is the powder bed, other one is the where you're keeping the sample, and the sample keeps coming down in height as the building develops further. This picture has been done, is taken from a paper which talks about the, selective laser sintering of nylon. Now, when you're dealing with parts which are used, for instance, if you're trying to use a medical implant and using a nylon part as a reference so that you show it to the surgeon and the surgeon approves it for that particular patient, then you cannot go through the inexpensive methods of making a plastic part by the wire process. Yeah, because the kind of accuracy you get in a SLS for nylon or PEEK is very high and gives a clear picture to the end user as to what the finished part is going to look like. It's very critical because otherwise if the design input for the implant from the surgeon is wrong, then even the metal implant will be wrong. But for that, the surgeon has to understand, and you cannot expect a surgeon to understand the limitations of 3D printing. Therefore, you have to give him a part which is almost true in nature. That's where SLS comes in. The difference between a SLS for a nylon and that for a metal is typically in laser power. For a nylon, I will show you further up, you can have as low as 5 watts or 10 watts. For metal, the minimum would be in the region of 250 watts. I would say today, with laser prices being low, we'll go with 500 watts, typically. Okay, this is a backbone of a typical powder bed machine. Okay, now here in a powder bed machine, the most critical part is what is not shown clearly here, which is the galvo, or the part which controls the movement of the laser beam to match the geometry of the part you're building. Okay, which is called the galvo. Now, essentially, this is the whole galvo, if you look at it, it looks like a black box. But these are the parts of a galvo. You have an x-axis and a y-axis motor. Then the laser beam comes and is manipulated. All this is happening in milliseconds. And as far as I know, nobody makes a galvo in India. And most of the galvos that we use are coming from Shenzhen, China. Galvo is the most critical part of a powder bed. Okay, now this is how the data or the process flows in a typical powder bed or laser metal deposition machine. You start with a 3D model, either an original design or a re-engineered, reverse engineered part. Then you slice it using the software into multiple layers. After that, you create the G code for each layer, which is also called the tool path. And the G code is then fed into a simulator to make sure that your slicing and the G code creation is correct and sort of matches with the original geometry you started with. After that, you feed it to the machine. So the G code goes into the device which controls the movement, galvo or a CNC system. Okay, this is a maiden, I would say, Coimbatore approach to building a SLS with CNC movement, because the engineer I was working with, my process engineer, design engineer, this is about 3 years ago, when we were working on knee implants. We said we don't want to import a SLS machine, even if it is for nylon, let's try and build one. Therefore, we started putting the design together. Here, we have not gone for a galvo because we couldn't source a galvo in India. We were apparently buying a Chinese Shenzhen galvo. Therefore, he came up with a CNC movement for the laser beam. Okay, and that's how we approach the whole thing. You have the powder hopper, then you have the build hopper. The two, one of the pink one is the powder feeder or the powder hopper. The one on the right, which is yellowish, is where the part is getting built. Okay, then here the instead of a galvo, he is moving the laser beam by using a welding head and the CNC attachment with it. Okay, this is a novel approach. The advantage of this approach is CNC controls are fairly understood by a lot of people because it's very popular. And the one thing you have to remember is a typical CNC control goes with a ball screw. And a ball screw typically has got a pitch in terms of millimeters. Whereas here, our movements are in terms of microns. Therefore, you have to introduce one more element in between, like a cam, like a worm gear, so that even if the ball screw rotates 1 RPM, ultimately the movement you get is in the region of microns. I mean, that's a detail which we have solved, but that is critical for using a traditional CNC approach for a powder bed movement or even with the other machine, the laser bed. We did all this work when we were thinking that the funding is going to come through quickly for the laser metal deposition machine, which is required for the manufacture of the knee implant. And this machine was supposed to do the prototype in nylon. When that funding got delayed, then we put all this on hold. Now the funding has come through. We have the COVID attack problem with Bharat. Now they'll start functioning almost in a normal manner. Then we'll get started on this. Okay. Earlier I talked about the laser, which is used on a SLS machine for nylon. This is a very popular kind. It's coming out of Lithuania. It's a very small one. It's fairly expensive compared to Shenzhen. And this is in the region of 5 to 10 watts. This is what is used on a nylon machine. The one for a metal machine will be much bigger, of course. Okay. This is again our idea. I mean, or rather my proposal to PSG to build a laser metal deposition machine. I think the project got started thanks to COVID. Everything got delayed, and we don't know which way it's going to go. But this was my design engineer's approach, and some of the motor positions in the CNC are wrong. Will have to be revised, but go by the concept, not on the nitty gritty on the motor. Now we have taken an approach that it's got to be used for vacuum. Okay. Now that's the first decision you have to take. In a powder bed, it's very difficult to make such decisions because almost only RCAM makes such a machine. Whereas in a laser metal deposition, it's easy to make such a decision. Now, why do you have to worry about vacuum? For those non-metallurgical, non-material science engineers, the group, especially the mechanical engineers, atmosphere control is very important for the functionality of the part. Okay. Now, if you use it in normal atmosphere, you have the oxygen pickup issues. In the case of titanium, oxygen pickup is very high, then the part is brittle. If the part is brittle, it will not function. Okay, that is why, for instance, the ASTM specifies for titanium should have a maximum of 0.28% interstitial oxygen. Now, in the case of a powder bed, when you're reusing the powder, the oxygen in a normal atmosphere, they call it with argon. Okay, they use argon control, but then the EOS doesn't remove all the oxygen to start with. They don't evacuate to a very high degree. In an RCAM machine, they do it, not in an EOS machine. Therefore, the residual oxygen is quite high, even though they keep saying they're doing it in argon atmosphere. Therefore, what happens is the powder is getting reused, right? You cannot throw away a powder for which you have paid 20,000 rupees a kilo. Therefore, when you use it, the powder that you're using, you think is fresh, but it's got oxygen already built into it. Therefore, you are no longer able to vouch or control that you have got a 0.28% oxygen maximum in the part. Okay, that is why a lot of people prefer RCAM, which is the E-beam machine. Now, what happens if you go to 0.25 or 0.38% oxygen? What's the big deal? Okay, the question is, it makes the part more brittle. Okay, what will happen? You can have a micro crack. For instance, let's assume you have a knee implant made of a powder bed titanium part. I mean, I'm talking about the knee. I'm not talking about a non-load bearing implant. Let's say a knee implant or a hip implant. Now, suddenly, if you put your foot down, like you're running a two-wheeler, you have a dog coming across, very common in India. Then suddenly you put your foot down to stop your vehicle. With that impact load, will make an implant crack. Okay, therefore, it's important for anything critical to have the microstructure control properly done. That is where vacuum comes in. Even if you are even if you are depositing in argon, you have to remove the residual oxygen. To remove the residual oxygen, you have to start evacuating it when you start the process. That means you have to get into 1 to 10 power minus at least 2 kind of millibar vacuum, 0.01, which is not difficult to get. The point is, if you don't design this from scratch one, the chamber is leaking everywhere. You will never reach that vacuum. Okay, that's why, for instance, I was talking about this problem to one of the leading manufacturers in Europe when they had come for a seminar in Bangalore. That was about 3 years ago. They said, "Oh, we can't do it in vacuum. We have to start from scratch all over again." Therefore, for India, since we have nothing to, I mean, we are starting from scratch anyway. You might as well keep that feature available. It is not expensive to keep it ready for vacuum. You don't have to use the vacuum approach. You don't have to have you can dummy the port. You don't need to connect to your pump. But design it from day one to suit one. And the laser metal deposition is a lot easier than powder bed for that. Because the mechanical problems of the powder bed in terms of sealing the thing can be organized. But what about the powder quality? That you cannot change. In a laser metal deposition, you're using wire. Therefore, the wire is fresh all the time. Okay, this is one view. Let's go to the next one. This is without the chamber. Let's assume the vacuum chamber has been removed. Now, you essentially, this is a 5-axis machine. Typically, you need about 5 axes if you are going with laser metal deposition. In the case of a powder bed, you normally have 3 axes because the galvo gives you X and Y, and the build platform gives you the Z. Okay, in this case, laser metal is more versatile when you're trying to build certain things. That is why you go for a 5-axis. Now, again, I said, don't worry about the position of the motor, what the motor looks like. Just focus on, there's more of an artistic concept. We have not engineered it to a detail. Look, it's fairly compact. You can see the dimensions. And so can a powder bed be. In fact, I would wish, please feel free to contact me if you're making a powder bed, especially for PEEK or for nylon. It's really worthwhile. The cost of the laser is low. You can have very good, beautiful looking parts. And PEEK especially is advantageous because it's functional parts. You're able to get, in many cases, engineering plastics or even in implants in certain locations where it's not especially load bearing. Okay, we'll go back to a powder bed and then I'll request questions if any. Okay, I'm all yours. Hello?
Yes, sir. Participants, if you have any query, you can unmute and you can speak to the resource person.
So good afternoon, sir. This is Arvind Kumar from PhD Tech.
Good afternoon.
That's a very good presentation, sir.
Thank you.
So I have some doubts on the control softwares for laser power source control.
Yeah.
So far, what are the software so far used for controlling these laser parameters? Is there any standalone software is available in the market, or we need to make it for our application?
You see, if you're trying to decide on the laser power, I mean, whatever you need comes with IPG. IPG gives you that. And you are the kind of what you call the welding head or the collating systems you use, they decide on the laser, what we call the spot size, which is
Okay.
critical. Those are all fixed, or the range is fixed when you buy the laser and you buy the accessories. Okay, the software which is typically in your control, I mean, I'm talking about the machine, is the one which takes the G code from you and translates it to an actual laser path, like in a Galvo or like in your CNC movement. Those software are not easily available. You have to either get it from this share platforms, you have it on those DIY platforms, or you have to create your own. As far as I know, one company in Trivandrum was making the software for what he called as a firmware, which is the heart of the machine. For our machine, we haven't solved the problem yet.
Okay. Sir, today I had a discussion with Autodesk. They have a power mill that is used for CAM. It's a for CNC programming, and they now launched this power mill additive that will generate G code, the additive, the slicing based on the slicing software. It will generate the NC code for the CNC machine as well as robotic arm, but it can't control the laser parameters.
Okay, I
So
mean, if
So
it
apart
can't
from that, any other manufacturers and can able to integrate our system with laser power source and laser parameter control?
there are so many sites which will help you. See, Autodesk is a very good company giving you a piece of software which will cost $1 for $100. Okay, but engineers like you should get into details, go to this DIY centers,
Okay.
CN, etc., which give you fairly inexpensive material, but which will require tweaking.
Okay.
It's available on the net. I mean, but my engineer, I don't know the nitty-gritty site. Gokul, my engineer, knows it. And if you want to, you send me an email through Prabhakaran, got one email address. I'll come back to you. I'll talk to Gokul and come back.
Fine, sir. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Any other queries from the participant side? Participants, any other queries? So I think there is no more questions from the participant side, sir. I think we can wind up today's session. So thank you so much, sir, for sharing your experience, especially in metal additive machine building. The session was very valuable. Of course, for sure, some of our participants will start building their own 3D printing machine without buying from other countries. Will make indigenous machine in our country itself, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir. Definitely, your words motivated us. From PhD, definitely we have already started building machines, 3D printing machines. Definitely, it will come in a good manner, for sure.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you,
for your
sir.
kind words.
Thank
Bye.
you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome.
Dear participants, that's all about the today's session. Tomorrow at 9:45, the next session going to start. The session title is Wire Arc Additive Manufacturing. The resource person for the next session is Dr. N. Murugan, professor from PSG College of Technology. So we'll meet you tomorrow at 9:45. So I will send you the new link to your mail ID and WhatsApp tomorrow morning. Thank you all.